Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of July 18th. As normal, we will start off with the Mythic Plus affixes for the week. This week we have Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging. Again, that's Tyrannical, Storming, and Raging. Nothing too terrible here as far as affixes go. It seems like really the only bad weeks might be the ones with the new affixes in them, which isn't great. Entangling, however, is very easy to deal with. Those other two are a lot more interactive than most of these other affixes are. Raging can cause some trouble for people for sure, especially in pugs. But it's known how to deal with so easily at high end that it's not really an issue. Although I suppose it's known how to deal with the new affixes as well. They just take a little bit more effort or a little bit more work to deal with them. Perhaps that's the reason there. So another solid week for keys if you are doing keys right now or pushing keys up. That's pretty much the reason to be doing keys at this point, or gearing an alt, I suppose, as well. So another solid week for doing that. As far as what's going on in game this week, there's not a whole heck of a lot going on in game this week. We do have the dungeon event for Dragonflight. This is particularly helpful on your alts, but a good solid event for like gear and stuff like that for end game type stuff. If you care to partake in that, we have the Auction House Dance Party. That's obviously not a big deal. It's an RP thing. I'm sure that maybe some people participate in for that, but nothing huge headlining there, and there isn't any like small events or anything else going on this week actually. So it is a bit of a boring week, I guess you'd say. But we can talk about what happened with the patch last week. Patch was obviously very huge, and last week probably the highlights were the Mega Dungeon. I got to do the Mega Dungeon. I enjoyed it quite a lot. It's a very, very good dungeon. It does feel like a small raid. It was probably, a bit easier than what like a mythic raid would be, even though it gives the aspect crest. Probably a bit easy when it comes to that. My group had a pretty much. I pugged it later on in the week, and I assume like a lot of people already had done it on their main characters and stuff. And my group definitely had a pretty hard carry in it. No offense to that person, but yeah, they were pretty much dead the whole time. And even with that, we were still able to plug around the dungeon. We'd wipe once or twice on a boss, and then kind of say how to do the mechanics, and then we would kill it. With that one person being dead usually. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was very, very good Mega Dungeon. Maybe a little bit too much trash, but trash is a part of Mega Dungeon. I think maybe just a little bit too much. Obviously, they have to have some in there though. So for the Mythic Plus, when they turn it into a Mythic Plus dungeon, they have to have some amount of trash. So I guess that kind of takes away from it being a raid when it's actually like a double Mythic Plus dungeon instead. But yeah, like I said, maybe a little bit too easy, but not a lot too easy. It still took a couple hours for my group. Again, I had a pretty hard carry in my group. But imagine if you are a casual player and you're doing it on Mythic with like 4 friends or something. Maybe it took you 3 or 4 hours to do, and maybe it felt very rewarding to do. Maybe you did it over the course of a couple days, and I think that's kind of cool. I think that's a kind of a neat thing, a neat way to do it. As long as people are enjoying it, I don't mind it taking that long for a casual player to do. As far as it being something for a higher end player, that's definitely not the case. It was definitely too easy to be meant for a higher end player, but that's okay too. Not everything has to be for a higher end player, so I don't really mind that. Very, very good dungeon. I don't know. The bosses were really good. I didn't like the layout as much as some of the other dungeons that they've made. Like I liked Mechagon. I liked the feel of Mechagon. I even liked Talzavesh, the layout of that quite a bit. Karazhan, obviously, just because it's Kara. That's nostalgia. But, maybe I didn't like the layout of this one quite as much with all the teleporting and flying around and stuff like that. It obviously fits the theme of it. But but I love the bosses. The bosses themselves are actually really, really cool with a bunch of interesting mechanics. So, it's still very high grade, even if I kind of grade it lower on the overall mega dungeons. I just think most of the mega dungeons have been quite good, and therefore it's a high bar essentially. So definitely good there. The other main highlight was probably the augmentation evoker. So augmentation came out, and we have found out that these are quite powerful. Now they are not like overpowered in 5-man content. They're very powerful in 5-man content, and they still need a little bit of a nerf there. So a little bit overtuned for 5-man content. Raid content, they're very overtuned because you can actually stack. And we found this out. There's videos about it. You've probably seen it maybe. But there's people that stacked like just like 20 evokers into a raid and just put all their DPS on the couple of Death Knights on pull. If you don't know, on Death Knights can use their Army of the Dead on pull and do like a crazy amount of damage and stuff like that. And they the augmentation evokers all buff them up with bloodlust, whatever, and they just destroyed Heroic Khazar in 20 seconds. The first boss in the heroic raid, and so I expect to see the stacking of augmentation buffs be nerfed, along with a small nerf overall to their augmenting, I guess you would say, and that's just because, especially in 5-man content, they're a little bit too strong. And what will happen is in raid they will become, something you want to have, but not necessarily something that you want to have a ton of, right? You definitely would want some in your raid, or one at least, or something like that. But yeah, I do expect to see some nerfs for that, because right now they're just a bit too overtuned. I am actually kind of glad that they didn't just immediately nerf them into the ground. So some people are probably gonna have some fun with it. Maybe they can do some really cool things before they get nerfed and kind of experiment a little bit with it. But we'll see as far as that goes, how it works out. Other than that, the patch, I guess there is another big thing to talk about, these time rifts. So these time rifts are incredibly popular. So the only issue with them is there is a lot of lag, and this is server side lag from Blizzard. If you look into the problem, it's I don't know how they solved this problem on their on their engine, on their thing. Like I don't know how they solve this issue on a 20-year-old game. If you actually read into the issue, it's like, oh, we'll just fix it, forehead. But it's a lot more complicated than that, and I really wish they could. It's pretty much the only bad part about these rifts. And it's really only the end part that lags when you all go into the portal together. But these rifts are really cool, and they're still just like on a big server. If you're on a big server, there's just everyone is there doing it. Like your whole screen is just full of people just slaughtering everything. And it's really, really cool to see everyone doing this and you'll see the most casual player there, and you'll see people from the high-end guild there, and everyone's just killing stuff. Why is it? Well, one, because it is a little bit fun. If there wasn't lag, it is actually fun. And then number two is because the rewards are very good. There's a lot of really, really cool rewards, and they cost an amount that takes a while to grind as well. So it makes you have to do them more to get some of these. The battle pets are really cool. At least a few of them are. And then the mounts, obviously, people just get mounts just to +1 their mount. The mounts aren't particularly cool, so if you only get mounts because they're cool, then you don't feel left out if you don't get them. However, if you get pets because they look cool, there are a few. I particularly like the dragon one and Gildan. I think those are really cool pets. Whoever made those did a great job. I thought those were excellent pets. So whoever made those, great job, because I'm not into pets or anything like that. But I already have Gildan, and I plan to get the Obsidian War Whelp or whatever it's called as well. Those look really, really cool. And then I'll probably just try to +1 the mounts. And this is content I'll go, as long as they make it soloable in the future, I'll go back and farm this. This is actually fun to do. This is cool to do. I'll grind up my rep with Sidormi. This is actually fun stuff to do. So this is a home run of an event. Obviously in the future, you'd like to see them attempt to work around this lag problem a bit more, but overall very, very good. So it was a heck of a week last week. I expect this week to be a little bit more boring. People just kind of doing the same things. I should mention for my raid, we are on Echo of Neltharion. We got really, really good prog on him on Thursday. Looking very, very positive to there. I would expect to be on Sarkareth quite soon, and that would be very exciting to get this raid done before summer's even over, and still have time to either farm the raid or take a break or whatever my guild decides to do, because we're not very hardcore or anything like that, so we don't have to do anything once we finish the raid. We'll just probably see if people want to farm gear or farm anything or not. We'll probably definitely farm the mount skin for as many people who want it, I'd imagine. So definitely looking forward to that. So everything's going great as far on all those fronts. And yeah, this video is a bit longer than normal, I feel like, because there's just so much stuff to talk about from last week. However, again, this week, a little bit more boring, unfortunately. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because it helps me out a lot. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.